My boyfriend Pablo and I were supposed to get married, but we broke up. Then his Argentine dog, Archie, brought us back together, and it was simply amazing. All I have left is to share with you and tell you how it all happened. Pablo got Archie a long time ago, and this dog replaced his friends, parents, siblings, and basically anyone who wasn't around. I never had a pet, so I didn't know what it was like to take on the responsibility of an animal. But as Pablo said, his dog was like a real family member. They really had an unusual connection. One day, Pablo decided to introduce us, and I went to visit, bringing a green ball as a toy for the dog. All dogs love a ball, I thought, so Archie will like it too. The door was opened by a frowning dog, not my boyfriend. I never even found out how he did it. He really was frowning and looking at me, not letting me into the house. I greeted him kindly, wanting to go inside, but he just sat there like a statue. So I took out the green ball, showed it to him, and threw it in his face. I swear it was an accident, but the dog didn't even blink, even though the ball hit him right in the eye. Phew, it was awkward. I wanted to apologize, but I didn't have the time. Archie ran swiftly between my legs, and we both fell to the ground. I tore my new dress, which upset me. Pablo came to the rescue from the kitchen and apologized, but I'd already understood that I wouldn't have a great relationship with his other half. The dog was always there. He sat between us on the couch, wouldn't let us hug, and barked loudly when we kissed. Then my boyfriend started closing the door so we could be alone, and then he'd listen to us and howl loudly. A couple of months later, on my birthday, Pablo proposed to me. We were walking in a romantic place, and his dog stole the box with a ring and ran away at the most irresponsible moment. It was so annoying. Asking Pablo to choose between me and the dog seemed too cruel, so my friends advised me to just get rid of the dog. But how? Pablo loves him so much. Just arrange something. For example, make the dog break or damage something very expensive that's close to your boyfriend's heart. Or something that will make Pablo feel terribly ashamed. So I came up with a plan. Cruel, yes, but I had to do something before my personal life collapsed because of a four-legged animal. In another instance, when I came home to Pablo, I found that green ball again and threw it at the dog's eye. The dog ran between my legs, and I fell with a crash while Pablo was in the bathroom. Ow, my hand! I can't move it! Frightened, my boyfriend took me to the hospital where they put a cast on me. The doctor sadly said that I had a closed fracture. I burst into tears, and Pablo apologized for a long time and promised to leave his dog to his mother. The dog was angry, and I threw the green ball into the bag with Archie's other toys and pretended to be sad about it. The next day, I decided to continue what I'd started on my birthday and prepare a romantic dinner for the two of us. Pablo was supposed to come any minute. Everything was ready. Pleasant music was playing in the background, and at that moment, it grew louder. And then, even louder. Strange. I went into the living room, turned off the music, and then returned to the kitchen. Wait, what is this? The ball? That same green ball. I thought I put it in the bag. I turned around, hearing breathing, and didn't have time to say anything except to scream. The dog knocked me to the floor. Then he bit into my cast and removed it. I pulled the cast towards me, and he pulled it towards him. You nasty dog! You ruined our whole date! I hate you! At that moment, Pablo froze in the doorway. Archie and I let go of the cast, which fell to the ground with a crash. I quickly ran up to my boyfriend and hugged him. What's going on here? Your dog attacked me! And how did he get away from your mom? You promised. And what about your hand? I see it's not broken. I was caught. I was so ashamed, but I was also so angry. It all ended in a fight, and we eventually broke up. I felt terrible. We hadn't talked in 5 days. I suffered and cried, but I couldn't go there, at least because I was so ashamed of myself. It was raining outside, and I felt like having ice cream. I went to the store without an umbrella, wearing a hood. As I walked down the road, lost in my thoughts, I crossed the street and turned my head, suddenly hearing the sound of a car horn. The car was heading straight towards me. I covered myself with my hands, and then, when I opened my eyes, I noticed that I was on the side of the road. Someone had saved me by pushing me off onto the sidewalk. People gathered around, and then I saw a green ball next to me. Oh no, not that. I ran over, grabbed the dog, and quickly took him to the vet. Archie was hit by the car instead of me, and he saved my life. The hospital was about to close and they didn't want to admit us. So I grabbed some kind of tweezers and threatened to destroy everything in there. The doctor was scared and put a cast on Archie's paw for me. He said there was nothing to worry about. I spent the whole night there with Archie. In the morning, they discharged him and told me to take him home. I carried him in my arms because he was getting carsick and brought him straight back to Pablo. He was beside himself and was already making flyers about his missing dog. Fortunately, everything turned out okay. He saw how bad I felt without you and apparently ran out to look for you, my boyfriend said. I apologized and told him everything that had happened. And then Archie suddenly licked me. Wow, what's with him? I asked, and Pablo laughed. Did you guys finally make up? Archie got up and walked away on 3 legs. Then he took out a familiar box with an engagement ring from his toy bag and brought it back to Pablo. Hello everyone, my name is Suyuna. I'm a schoolgirl who, in addition to studying, also earns a living. As usual, after school, I went to the warehouse, carried a few boxes of apples in a basket, and stood selling them by the road. I've been doing this for 4 years, sometimes also working as a cleaner in the cafe. On one of those days, my new rich classmate Chloe Mean walked by. He recognized me, but he didn't say hello. And passing by with his miserable company, he touched one of the boxes and the apples rolled across the road. I shouted at him that he was a moron and quickly began to collect everything in a heap. Instead of apologizing, he crushed one of the apples with his foot and walked away. His friends thought it was funny, but not me. I threw the biggest apple at Mean's back. From the blow, he almost fell over, came up with screams, accusations, and began to yell that if I didn't have enough money, he'd sue and demand compensation. Yes, I'm poor and I don't have money like you, but unlike you, at least I have humanity. You're an animal. Not everything is about money. He wanted to say something in response, but his friends took him away, shouting that it was better not to mess with the poor as we're too aggressive. At school, we just ignored each other. On one of the rainy days, I received a large order with a home delivery. In my yellow coat, I carried apples in a basket like in the market and brought them to the specified address. But when I entered the house, I saw that Mean was sitting there with company. What are you doing here? I actually live here. What about you? Among his friends, I recognized this one guy, Taejun. He grew up in an orphanage with me. He was adopted at the age of 5. He was lucky to continue to live with a wealthy family. He looked at me and shouted, "Hey, brother, leave her. Give me some change and let her go." I didn't tolerate it. I didn't want to tolerate it. Taejun, I see you haven't changed. That's what money does to people, right? When we were at the orphanage together, you sang me songs to get me to give you a glass of milk. And now this is how you repay me? Shut up, you're confusing me with someone else. You can't be confused with anyone. You have a weird left eye just like before. Everyone started laughing at him. Mean wanted to kick me out of the house, but he was stopped by a beautiful woman, his mother. It was she who had ordered the apples, thanked me, and offered me tea. I politely refused, took my money, and went outside. Taejun ran after me, grabbed my elbow, but I kicked him so hard that he fell into the mud. Mean stopped him when he swung, and I left. The next day I went to the hospital to visit my little sister. She was receiving serious treatment due to kidney problems. All the money I earned went there. There were still $10 million missing, about $10,000. But then something unexpected happened. The doctor said that everything was paid for by an unknown sponsor. My happiness knew no bounds. After that, I went to the store again, and when I laid out the goods, Mean approached me. He put on an apron and stood next to me. "What do you need?" "I came to help with sales. I assure you, in an hour, there will be nothing left." And he was right. All the girls yelled how handsome he was and bought up all the apples. I didn't ask questions until we went out to eat after work. Then he said he did it because he felt guilty about Taejun, and he was also surprised at how his mother met me. I was so pleased. So we began to chat and we became close. One day he told me, "You're right, you know, not everything is about money. I like you, and that's free." Then he kissed me on the cheek. That evening, Taejun distributed a photo of me selling apples. The whole class laughed at me, but Mean reassured me, promising not to talk to him, and invited me to our first date. I arrived early, as it happened, and waited at the entrance to the restaurant. But instead of Mean, Taejun came. He said something sarcastic that I didn't want to listen to. I wanted to go inside, but he said, "Remember, people like us are nothing in this world without money. Do you really think that I'm your enemy? Think about it. Mean is with you because of the money too. I didn't believe him. What are you talking about? I have no money. Well, him and his mother now do. What are you talking about? His mother used to head our orphanage and is now going to become the chairman of a charitable foundation. Didn't you know? Thanks to you, their PR company gained momentum. Who paid for your sister's treatment? It was her. Every step was recorded by the operators, and then they'll invite you for an interview soon. You'll see. I cried, but I didn't want to believe it. And then Mean called and said, "Please forgive me, there are unforeseen circumstances. Journalists came to us. Could you come, and then we'll go out after?" But I didn't want to listen. I just hung up the phone and went home. Are we really nothing in this world without money? Can everything of value be exchanged for currency? Let me know what you think.